Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful Pali concept, one that shows us how our own minds can be either our biggest vulnerability or an unbreakable fortress of strength. It all comes down to where your mind finds its footing. So let's start with a question we've all asked ourselves. Why is it that negative thoughts and feelings just seem to stick like glue? Someone says something that gets under your skin, or a little worry pops up, and it just plays on a loop. It's so hard to shake it off, right? It almost feels like that thought has a physical grip on you. Well, in the Pali Suttas, this vulnerability we feel isn't just some random bug in our system. It's actually seen as an opening for a force they personified as Mara. Now, Mara isn't some kind of demon with horns hiding in the shadows. Think of Mara as a symbol for our own internal patterns, the habits of mind that lead to distress and keep us stuck. And there's this classic phrase that perfectly explains Mara's whole strategy. It says Mara finds an opening and then Mara finds a foothold. See, he doesn't just smash his way into your mind. He's patient. He waits for a little crack and a potardarm. And then he looks for an Ārammaṇam, a support, a landing spot, a place for all that negativity to take root and grow. So what on earth is an Ārammaṇa? Well, it's whatever your mind is latched onto at any given moment. It could be a sight you're looking at, a sound you're hearing, a feeling in your body, an emotion, even just a passing thought. It's the object the mind is resting on, the foundation it's using for support. The texts have this brilliant metaphor to make it really clear. An unmindful mind is like a pile of dry, brittle wood. Any little spark of anger or worry that comes along can instantly set the whole thing ablaze. But a mindful, protected mind, that's like wet wood. It's waterlogged, it's non-flammable. The sparks can land on it all day long, but they just fizzle out. They can't start a fire. Mana simply finds no foothold. Okay, so Mara needs that foothold, but how does that process actually work? Let's get into the mechanics of it. How a single fleeting thought can snowball into a powerful, obsessive mental state. We all know this pattern, don't we? A tiny little worry pops into your head, and before you know it, your mind has built an entire universe around it, and it's a full-blown obsession. Well, the texts give us a surprisingly clear, step-by-step breakdown of how our consciousness uses an Ārammaṇa to do just that. And here's the absolute key to understanding this. Consciousness, or vijnana, isn't some static thing just hanging out in your head. It's an active process. It's always arising in relation to an object. It literally cannot exist in a vacuum. It needs an Ārammaṇa, a support, to land on and become established. So here's how that chain reaction happens. First, an intention or an impulse appears. That thought or feeling then becomes the Ārammaṇa, the support that the mind grabs onto. Once the mind has a footing on that object, consciousness gets established there. And from that point, it just grows and proliferates, feeling more and more of that same state of being and keeping that cycle of stress going. Now, this might sound a little bleak, right? Like we're just helpless victims of this process. But this is the crucial turning point. This is where we get our power back. Because the texts are crystal clear, we have a choice about what we use as the mind's support. And to show just how serious this idea of choice is, there's the famous simile of the saw. It presents the ultimate stress test. Even in the face of this unimaginable horror, the text says you still have a choice. If you let your mind become hateful, you're not practicing correctly. It shows that even then, you can choose where your mind rests. So what's the solution? It's not about suppressing the anger or the pain or just gritting your teeth and bearing it. It's about actively, intentionally replacing that painful Ārammaṇa with a better one. By choosing to make a vast, boundless quality like loving kindness the mind's main object, you build a totally new foundation, one that just can't be shaken. And by resting on loving kindness, your mind becomes like the great earth. People can throw all sorts of garbage and filth on the earth, they can dig it up, spit on it, but the earth is just too vast and deep to be spoiled by it. It remains undefiled. Or your mind can become like empty space. Think about it. You can't paint a picture on the air, can you? There's nothing for the paint to stick to. In the same way, when your mind is that vast and open, harsh words and negative experiences just pass right through without leaving a mark. And finally, you can make your mind like a mighty river, like the Ganges. Could you set a massive, flowing river on fire with one little torch? No way. It's just too powerful, too immense. The flame would be extinguished in an instant. And that's what happens to a little spark of anger when it lands in a mind that is flooded with loving kindness. So, we know we can choose a better support for the mind. That's great. But what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? What are the skillful supports we can practice with to build this kind of resilience? The suttas use another beautiful metaphor for this. They talk about a safe pasture where the mind can roam freely without ever being captured by Mara. And this safe zone is called our own ancestral territory. It's our home turf where we're strong and secure. So what is this safe ancestral territory? It's the practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. It's that simple. By using our own direct experience, our body, our feelings, our mind states, and the qualities arising in the mind as the object of our attention, we stay within our home ground. We stay in a secure area where Mara can't get a foothold. So think of it this way. When we let our attention get totally lost in chasing after pleasant sights and sounds or running away from unpleasant ones, basically getting lost in sense pleasures, we've wandered out of our safe pasture. We're in Mara's territory now, and that's exactly the opening he's been waiting for.
All right, so we've learned to choose skillful supports, and we know how to stay in our safe pasture. But you might be wondering, is that the end of the road? Do we just keep swapping one mental support for another forever? What's the ultimate goal here?
The final destination of this path is actually to reach a state where consciousness doesn't need to land on any object at all. It's a profound kind of freedom, a release from the entire process of grasping and clinging that defines so much of our normal experience. And this state has a name, Ānana Ramanam. It's the literal opposite of Ārammaṇam. It means without an object, without a support. The texts describe it as a mind that is unestablished, unoccurring, without support. And then they say, just this, is the end of suffering. It's a peace so complete it doesn't depend on anything. And that brings this whole exploration right back to this very moment. This isn't just some ancient philosophy. It's about right now as you're listening. So the question to leave you with is a simple one. What is your mind resting on right now? Is it a skillful support, or has Mara found a foothold? The beautiful thing is, the choice is always yours.